The first Saturday in July. 2 precious minutes. 4.25 million rand. Saturday, the 7th of July. Whose time is it? The Vodacom Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing event.
Hi, welcome to our panel for the July Gallops that we had today. I'm just going to introduce the panel. On my right, we've got Kevin Shea. Next to him is Garth Puller, and on the end, crowd favourite Vdj Panel. We're going to run through the gallops today, talk about what we saw. This mic is giving us a little bit of feedback, but it's wonderful to be able just to evaluate what we saw, and our panel are going to do just that. And we'll get straight into the action. And Kev, I think we're going to go by race card. So let's start off with the 2 reserve runners first. And the first horse we got to see out there, Kev, was Crowd Pleaser, who's the 2nd reserve.
Yeah, Laf, I was very impressed with him. As we said earlier on, he was the fastest galloper today, the 400 to finish, 22:41. He done the last gallop. It'd be nice to see him in the race. He's a galloper. And as you said, he won the 2200 last year, which is the consolation for the July. He did work well. He looked well. Big player in the owners section as the Werners. And yeah, I would like to see this horse in the race, Laf. Unfortunately, he's not in the race. Hoping there's going to be a scratching or 2. But he did look well and he did work well.
Garth, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a good gallop. I think the consolation is that he is running on the day and should definitely be in the consolation. It should definitely be in the first 2. He put up a good gallop. It's just a pity he's not in the race, and you don't really get too many scratchings in the July. So, and he's reserved too.
Dees, it looked like if he had got in, he would have been the probable pacemaker.
Yeah, it looked that way the way he races, and he's familiar with the surroundings here at Greyville. You know, he's been here many times where he's given a good account of himself. Well, strangely enough, you know, the 2 reserve runners, you know, for me, they put up the best gallops, Pack Leader and Crowd Pleaser. So, you know, if you had to make a choice just on looks and what they showed today, which is obviously just a guide, I'd actually put both horses in my top 6. But unfortunately, they're not in, but they'll be seen on the day, and Crowd Pleaser, really impressive.
Garth, Crowd Pleaser? Pack Leader?
Yeah, I think Pack Leader is probably, for me, the nicest gallop on the day. And he galloped with a very good horse. And one, I have to take cognizance of that. I mean, he galloped with eyes wide open. And he literally played with him at the finish. I think this is a horse that's very unlucky not to be in the race. I think he might still be lucky enough. One comes out. I really think one of my first 4 choices for the July if he gets in.
A lot of talk about him, Laf, before... during the course of the season and getting scratched at one day. That day there was just, it was a hype about this horse, and you look at him, he's an absolutely magnificent looking animal. And like Dees and Garth said, both these are emergency acceptors, both worked well, and I think they deserve a spot in the race, but they're not in the race, so we're going to have to wait and see. Like Garth says, you don't normally get too many scratchings in the July, so if there is a scratching and one of these get in, there's a horse I wouldn't leave out my quartets or my top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he galloped exceptionally well, and he looked very well. If he does get into the race, he's unfortunately drawn a bit deep, but his gallop today suggests that all's well.
Paul, if I may, you know, I just had a quick word with Richard Fourie, and what's not declared is the weight in the gallops. And Richard, we had a long chat. This horse actually carried 60 kgs in the gallop, you know, with the other horses, you know, just going with the whatever the rider weighs, and you know, he had some lead in his bag and he had 60, and Richard was really impressed with him. So if he doesn't get into the main race, of course Richard couldn't ride him in the consolation. He's committed to Platinum Prince. He thinks this horse will be very hard to beat in the 2200 consolation.
Absolutely. Looks to be a very good race, that race. Let's talk about the Oaks winner. We watched the video of Secret Potion working. Very talented. These daughters of Elusive Fort really have got ability. Kev, what did you think?
Yeah, Laf, one of those horses. You're talking about which horse now, Laf?
Sorry, did you nod off?
Oh no, Secret Potion. Yeah, sorry. I was.
We're working from the bottom up. Sorry.
Oh, we're working from the bottom up. Okay, Jeff Woodruff's horse, yeah. Worked well, Laf. Those Joburg horses did have a good stretch. That's one thing I must say about the Joburg guys. They get the horses working. Is good enough for me. I think there's a couple others I think I'm going to put in front of that.
Garth?
No stamina doubts, but I think she's thrown in the deep end here. I think it's going to be a little bit hard for her.
How about you, Dees?
Yeah, I also think, it'll be tough for her. We've had some very useful 3-year-old fillies that have tried their hand at winning it of late, and they've failed. And, she's taking on some useful older male rivals here and some 3-year-olds that are exceptionally talented. She's a talented filly, but, if you're looking for top 6 and you're looking for a big result in the quartet, maybe she's one to include, but she doesn't form part of my top 4.
Yeah, it'd be great for local boy Show and Jerry. He's got a runner, well done to him. Then we come to our horse, Dark Moon Rising, who the further they go, when you get people like Delpesh and Marcus saying you'll never train a better stayer, and since he's come back, no horse has ever finished better than him. Kev, has he the ability that you guys might know, but he certainly has the stamina.
Stamina is not a problem, Lef. I think he's had a good preparation. His last run was a great run. Drawn nicely. I mean, you got Warren Kenny on the horse. I know you'll be hoping that he's in the shake-up. I think he's a horse I would include in my top 6. I like the way he's progressively coming forward. Is he good enough? This is going to be the deciding factor. But you don't know how good they are until you run them against the best. So I'm hoping for a big run for you, and I'm sure that with the owners of Full Georgia, Doug Stain, George, and all you guys involved, I wish you guys all the best.
Garth?
Yeah, Paul, I think a great last run, a little bit unlucky probably. Same lines as Matador Man, also the same sort of strong finish. Stamina, no problem. For me, he's got that come on look. He's a horse that's improving all the time. If he, I think he'll feature. I think he'll be running on very strongly. He's always got next year. I think next year he'll be a top horse.
Yeah. Dees, what did you think?
Yeah, firstly, hearty congratulations from a KZN point of view to yourself and all the other guys for, doing what was necessary to qualify this horse into the July, and I wish you guys well. A lot will depend on the pace in the race, and of course the draw is a tricky one for him now because he's a horse that enjoys to be left where he's comfortable, which is usually in the second half of the field, and he has a serious turn of foot. So draw 3 is a tricky draw for me, but I'm sure you guys will discuss it with Warren and, what decision to make from that barrier position, because if you're going to get caught stuck onto that rail and horses fighting and jostling for position coming around you, it can get, very rough. We know it's 18 horses that are all vying for early position, and if you find yourself in sitting midfield, Paul, I think your horse is good enough to be running on into the top 4. That's the way I see it. He's got a serious turn of foot. I think this horse's fate will be determined in the first 400 meters.
Yeah, I know people say to me this year the Vodacom's a weak, says it's weak, but it's all the raw material about. These are the best horses about, and it's only weak when you're in the race. When you look at what you're taking on, the opposition is always tough. So we're hoping for the best, but let's move on. Rocket Countdown.
Paul, if I may, did you get any response with that race for a car yet?
No, we haven't had any response, but we will do. It'll pick up. People are sending cheeky messages. But,
sure.
It was said in the right frame of mind, So we haven't had any response.
It's wonderful banter and wonderful build-up to the July lap.
That's what it's all about,
What is that all about?
Yeah, a trainer thought we were lucky to get in the race. We said we'll race him for a car, and I know we've got a car on hand. One of our owners is a car dealer. His best friend is a car dealer. There's a car there. If the bet comes off, we'll put the car up. So that's where it all came from. But that side, it's good banter. It's very good for the race. But let's move on to Rocket Countdown. Kev?
Yeah, Lef, I thought quite lucky to get into the July. Been runner-up in the Winter Classics. Candice Bass-Robinson, the last year's winning trainer. I don't know. For me, doesn't form part of my top 6. So I'm going to pass with number 16, Rocket Countdown.
How about you, Garth?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a tough. I mean, I know he ran in the Classics in Cape Town, and probably a lot weaker. I think it's going to be a hard ask.
Dees?
Yeah, this horse gives me the feel of when they tried to give trainer Mike Bass, the swan song of winning the Vodacom Durban July. I think it was his last season before he was handing over to his daughter Candice. They brought down Marineresco, and he absolutely flew for that second position behind the conglomerate. And, he took his place in both those legs of the Winter Series, and he's been beaten by a horse that I think next season is a serious racehorse. From the Eric Sands yards called Rainbow Bridge. if he had to come down here for this year's race, I think for me it'd be one of the leading contenders. The way he won last time out, doing everything wrong with Richard and still to get the job done. And this horse, he ran a good second behind him. He was the first galloper today, and I thought he worked impressively. I really liked the way he was stretching out. And whether this race has come too soon for him, we'll know on Vodacom Durban July Day. But whatever the result in this race, this is a horse for the future. I think don't write him off if he runs a poor one in the July, but I was impressed with him today, Paul.
Yeah, that's true. I thought I enjoyed his gallop too. I thought Rocket Countdown galloped well. He's got a win over White River. So coming on the right way. And let's look at Jeffrey Lloyd's ride. Kev, it's wonderful to have him in town. He is a legend. And it's his last year of riding. And he's got this ride on a horse who's quietly come up to get a blow in.
Yeah, Lef, I must say, great to have the Gov in town. As we spoke off air, myself and Garth, just to watch him with his hands on the horses, and he's a great rider. And yeah, he's got a nice horse made to conquer big players, Nick Johnson and co. Is it too short for him? Who knows? I think Jeff will make the difference on a horse like this. I think if they're going too slow, he's not scared to maybe even take it up or have a horse ride up there. He knows his ride. He's out here, and I'm sure he'll have his followers. And his horse, he can be in the top 6.
Garth?
Yeah, I think very workmanlike kind of gallop, a big striding horse. Obviously, no stamina doubts. He's got a top rider on board. He's probably guaranteed third or better.
Third or worse.
Third or worse, yeah. No, but I think we're all obviously hoping for Jeff to come out and do what Michael did. Yeah, look, I think he's a runner. I think he's a horse that is developing. He's got probably a little bit on the immature side still, but I think he's a horse that will be in contention. The stable's got 5 strong horses to try, and they obviously know that he takes his place.
Thanks, Dees.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of working with Jockey Delpesh, an absolute professional, and unfortunate about his injury. And Jeff actually contacted me, to try and help him for rides on Vodacom Durban July Day. And this was just not a decision that I made for him to ride this horse. He's an absolute professional. He looks at everything to the T, and we went through most of the runners in the field and their preparations, and he watches replays. I mean, guys think that he's in Australia and he doesn't know what's happening in South Africa. He's got his finger on the pulse. He watches the replays. He watches the feature races. He knows what's happening with horses, and he actually knew a lot more about this field than I could ever give him. So, we both discussed the race, and we both decided that he's the unexposed horse in the race. He'll come in with a nice low weight. He hasn't been tried at this level. We know he won the Lonsdale last time out. But he's a horse that's in a very good space. When he reeled off 4 in a row last time out, I think he would have won very easier than the margin suggests. He was fought all the way to the line by stable companion Stratton, who gave him a hard time, pushing him towards that inside running rail. For me, that race, on face value, he won the race, but he would have won much easier. Jeff's happy with his work. He's been to work this horse at Summerfeld. You saw him at the gallop here as well. He's not a horse that's going to wow you in the gallop, and Jeff's of the opinion in 6 months' time this horse is actually going to mature into a better horse, but he's very happy with the way this horse is going. He's got a ticket. It's his last Vodacom Durban July, and for me, the theme this year, it's about time. So the headlines I'm hoping will be, it's about time Lloyd conquers the July.
All right, let's move on to Michael de Kock's runner, Yakeen. And Kevin, this is by Teofilio. We did see that very good horse, Duncan Howells, trained 10 Gun Salute. Same stallion. I think he won the 1900. So the credentials are there, and him and Tilbury Fort bring in very similar form lines.
Yeah, they've got that Joburg form line. Mike de Kock knows all about the July. He'll have this horse fit and well, and his stable is on fire in Gauteng at the moment, and this horse will be travelling down next week. Mike will be down this weekend. I spoke to him yesterday, so he'll be doing the final little touch-ups next week. Not too much will be done. Worked at the stable before the week before the July. Not much is done, but these horses are fit and strong, and I wouldn't leave a horse like this out of your exotics. He's that kind of horse. He's got something about him.
God, he's won 4 of 6.
Big one?
He's won 4 of 6.
Yeah, no, look, I think he's a good horse. I think he's a horse that's obviously got that come on look about him. And Michael's going to bring down a fit horse. He'll be there. Obviously, he'd probably like a good pace. But a horse that you just can't ignore.
Yeah. Dees?
Yeah, you need to have a look at the 3-year-olds. When they matched each other in the Daily News, the two Gauteng horses, Surcharge and Majestic Mambo, they showed that they can hold their own. So that Gauteng 3-year-old form lines are looking strong. Yeah, Mike's won this horse, 4 times now with EP Tombi, Grazin, Igugu, and Bowl Silvano. So a champion trainer that knows how to get them well. The distance will be no problem, otherwise Mike wouldn't be running him here. A horse that has to be respected, Paul, but although he doesn't form part of my top 4, they are placing 6 places on tab, so he could be a nice price for that 5th, 6th position.
Yeah, Tilbury Fort brings in very similar form. If I'm not mistaken, he's just been gelded and he's really done well as a gelding. And the difference between him and Yakin has to be the draws, Kev. One's coming out of 7, one's coming out of 20.
Yeah, draws are definitely a big factor in the July. A lot of the fancied horses are drawn out there, but he'll be in the shake-up. I know Mark de Kock, he doesn't let horses fall out the race, and that he'll want this horse in the scrum. Randall Simons is the top of his game at the moment, so yeah, I like this horse. I think you can't leave him out of your exotics.
Are you going to talk about Tilbury Fort, please?
Yeah,
He nods off quite a bit.
Tilbury Fort, like I say, Lef, what more can I say about him? It's all there.
Lyle Hewitson.
Yeah, he's got the top guy on. Second to Yakin, and short head. He's got to have a chance. Sean Terry, he knows how to get them right, but yeah, it's got to be a big runner.
Garth?
Yeah, that Jubilee form is good. I mean, I think he's a runner, same as Yakin. He's obviously improved from gelding, and you know yourself when you geld him, they come on, especially over ground. He wouldn't be one of my choices, but I think he could be a contender. You'd include him in large quartets, you'd have to.
Okay, Dees?
Yeah, tough ask from the draw, Paul, and you got the champion jockey elect. The apprentice is going to win it this year. He's well clear on the log. But of the 3 runners from the Terry stable, I'm more in the corner of Matador Man.
Okay, let's look at White River next. Now, this is one of 2 Trippies in the race. Trippy, source of speed for many years, champion stallion. And this horse had run and injured Arthur Marcus. And then they had to rush him back because they gelded him, Kev, in between. And he came back in the Daily News. He ran a good race. It wasn't long after gelding, so he has to improve.
Yeah, Laf, I spoke to Anton the day he fell off him, and the jockey change was Pierre Cornet offer, and he said to me, watch this horse, Kev, he's a very, very good horse. And they thought he would actually win the Guineas that night. He ran 4th to do it again. They gelded him after that. He never got disgraced last time, ran a great race. Sitting next to Brett at the draws, he said this horse, he's a very good horse and he's expecting a huge run from him. So I respect Brett's comments about that. And he's not one of my fancied horses. I'm worried about the trip at the moment, but he's drawn 13. He'll race up there, Laf. I think he'll be up there in the vanguard. Not one of my fancied runners, but it's going to be interesting to see how good he is.
All right, Garth, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's a proper racehorse. I've been watching him at Shongweni. It was very naughty, very hard to control as a colt. Never concentrating on what he had to do, ducking, diving, throwing the jockeys off the battle to get to the track, leading back from the track. And they gelded him, I think, probably 2.5 weeks prior to his race. So that was a very fast comeback. But he took the gelding very well, never swelled, had no problems, and a good run. And I really like the gallop. And I think he's a serious racehorse. I think he could be in the first 4.
Dees?
Yeah, he does form part of my first 4. A horse that I think needed gelding desperately because of his mannerisms. And last time out, I don't think he got the clearances of passages. So, he was under 2 lengths behind Surcharge. He's a horse that's got a serious reputation. From the day he arrived in KZN, I've been chatting to both Brett and Peter Muscat, and at that stage, Anthony was not committed to any horse for this season, and this is one of the horses that we earmarked that could be a possible July contender that he could ride, just on reputation and what he's shown. I think he's over his issues now, Paul. We saw him this morning. He was well behaved. He was in the parade ring. He went onto the track well. Obviously, doesn't have the atmosphere of being in a race, but I think he's over his issues now, and we haven't seen the best of this horse yet. I'm expecting him to be in the top 4.
Yeah, I think it's a very good horse. Now let's move on to Fiorella. She's not a big girl. She's by Captain Al out of a Caesar mare, trained by Duncan Howell's, a very astute trainer. He gets horses into this race every year. He's always at the top of the tree. New owner. I think she's a very good filly, Kevin. She went the 10 furlongs. She's very talented.
Yeah, Laf, I must say, I've got no excuses with this filly about the trip. Duncan Howells knows how to get them fit. Great to have Dave McLean involved as well, a big owner in the game. And I think this filly is a big runner. She's run to the two best fillies in South Africa, beating one of them and going down ahead to the other one. Going to be up there, gets Mark Khan. I think if she's in front doing it her own way, they're going to have to wake up to try and get past her. She's gutsy, she fights, she's fit. She looked well, she moves well. Everything points towards her, and she's definitely forms part of my top 4. I think she's a big runner. I know a 3-year-old filly's to win the July. Is she good enough? Is she a dancer's daughter or Epi Tombi? Let's wait and see. I think she's a big runner. She's done nothing wrong, and she wants to win. So I'll give her a big shot.
Garth?
Yeah, she's done very well. She deserves her place. She split probably the best 2 fillies from Cape Town. For me, a 3-year-old filly, it is a big ask. I think next year she'll be even better. I don't think she's got a problem with the distance, but it's a tough race for a 3-year-old filly. But she's done everything right.
All right, Dees, what do you think?
Yeah, fantastic. I had my doubts last time out. Not doubts that she was going to see it out, but I just thought, is she more effective a filly over much shorter? But she certainly answered that question with aplomb, because at one stage down the straight at Greyville, she looked like she was going to go out the back door and maybe finish 4th, and she actually rallied over the final 100 meters to make a race of it at O Susanna. I thought she was gutsy in defeat that day, and the extra 200 meters will be no problem for her. You have to like the way Mark Khan has come back from his injury. He's picking his spots. He won the South African Derby. He won the gold medallion recently for Johan Janssen on Mighty Man. So yeah, he's a big race rider. He's a man for the occasion. And with this filly, just 53 kgs on his back, I agree with both Garth and Kevin. More so Kevin, who seems to be a bit more confident than Garth. But although she doesn't form part of my top 4, if you had asked me for my 5th position, this is the filly I'll include.
Thanks very much. Right, let's move on to Matador Man. Ran a very good race in the 1900. Also found traffic problems. Samanga Kamala for Sean Terry. What do you think, Kev?
There was a lot of stamina doubts about this horse, and if you watch his last run, he's a horse that he has to be given a clear run. He's a big moving horse, and he actually found trouble at the top of the straight. Got stuck in between horses, bounced around a little bit, but he ran on very well. I think this horse is I think he's a runner. I like the horse. That puts your horse into it as well, Dark Moon Rising, because you beat him fair and square last time. But I like this horse. I think he's a runner, and I believe that he will stay. There are question marks, but I think he does stay.
Garth?
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think the way he finished in the race with your horse, I think he was a tad unlucky. He got a little squeezed. He come late. He had to come out for a clear run. He'll be running on very strongly. Distance-wise, I don't know, but I know John Terry left him very fit, and he looked good.
Okay, Dees?
One of the horses that chose to gallop on the poly track instead of the turf, and just asked Sean about that, and he just said, no, it's just a decision just to run him on the poly. Nothing about it running on the turf or anything this morning. But of the 3 runners from the Terry stable, this is my choice. If you had to pick a horse that's going to finish ahead of the others from the yard, I think this is the individual that looks to pick from the stable. And if you're playing quartets and that type of bet, I think for their minor position, the quartet pool is going to be a massive one, Paul. It's, I think, 17 million in the betting menu. So you're going to have to play wide for the 3rd and 4th position. Take a stance, your 1st and 2nd position with the horses that you fancy, but play as wide as possible for the minor position. And this is one of the horses that you must include.
Right, and Kevin's just pointing something out to me, and Hawkeye, Kevin, not Craig Peters, it's you. You're talking about Majestic Mamba, and Majestic Mamba was the big horse. What do they used to call him? The Randy racehorse when he first started, because of his penchant of prancing around. But he showed in his last run, Kevin, that he's a top horse. He was eating up the turf. He's always had a great turn of foot. He was unfortunately the horse that Anthony Delpesh clipped heels with and came down. Just, if you look at the race card, it's got their Wilgebos Drift and it's got Mary Slack's colours. Kevin has picked up, they've got the Hyperpain Syndicate's colours there. Well spotted, Kev.
Yeah, listen, looks like Mary Slack's bought a share in this horse. The colours are her colours, but it says there red and white, Epileka with red sleeves and cap. So what colours the horse is going to run in, I don't know, but looks like Mary Slack has got involved with this horse.
Kev, I believed it was changed on the final, when they did the final field. That's what, often in the final field, my producers just told me in my ear, that's when it was changed.
Oh, okay, so these will be the colours for Saturday.
Yep.
So it runs in Mary Slack's colours. For me, a big runner. I like this horse left. I think he's a very, very good horse. He's still a colt, it says. Has he got the gears on the day? Big crowds, a lot of music, everything. Can he control himself? If he does, I'm not worried about his draw. He comes from the back of the field. He'd like a nice pace. Callum Murray's riding him again. He rode him last time, and second to Surcharge. For me, a big runner. I think this is the horse they all have to beat.
Garth?
Yeah, a very talented horse. When he's won well. He's never really had his mind on the business. He's obviously got a tremendous turn of foot. Like Kevin says, bad draw, July field, big crowds. Is his temperament going to be good enough? I'm not that sure. I just know he's got the talent, he's got the ability. The occasion might be big.
Dees?
Yeah, serious racehorse. We know about his bad habits and very coltish individual. And last time out, I was really pleased to see him bounce back to his best. He seemed to be going backwards for some reason. I watched his race in Joburg. I was on the track here, misbehaving in some of the races, pre-race, but not showing anything. But his last start, wow, you know, the spot that he came from, of course, Surcharge also came from off the pace, but Stuart Peregrine has gone on record to mention that's the best horse he's ever trained. He came to our town and showed the other 3-year-olds that he's boss. And this horse was a touch unlucky. You know, he came right to the outside to make his run. He was only beaten a half a length, a serious run from a horse. And I like the fact that now Paul has shown him the track. It's a shorter run in, which is not ideal for him. So don't worry about the draw. He's going to be left down towards the back of the field. And if his mind's on racing and you know, the occasion doesn't get the better of him, Paul, he's a massive runner in this race. I've always had a high regard for him. So did Anthony. And I'm hoping for the guys that, you know, he can run a big one. So we'll just have to wait and see come race time on how he behaves and how he takes the race. But the track now is no problem for him. And the draw is not a concern at all, Paul.
Okay, let's move on to number 8, Do It Again. Now, Do It Again came to prominence with being the runner-up in the Cape Derby. Came up here and ran such a great race, winning the guineas, coming from the back. Then Kev was at second run of Talal. Did he blot his copybook behind Surcharge and Majestic Member? He ran fourth. What do you think?
Yeah, left big reputation, a good horse. This is the horse that when he won the guineas, I got hold of Jeff Lloyd. I said, this is the ride you should go for as a 3-year-old. I'm gonna put a line through his last run. Yeah. It's not a bad run, fourth. I'm gonna say second run after Ralph. He's a kind of horse left that can do it. Yeah. He can do it again. So I would add him into the top 6 of my horses.
Yeah, I thought he galloped well. Garth?
Yeah, I think he's one of the better horses. I think he's probably one of the top 3-year-olds around. I put a line through the second run as well. Came down the inside. He didn't look to be at his best. You know, when they run above themselves first time out, they obviously often need that second run. He's got Superman getting down to 54 kilograms. I think this is one of the horses to beat. I really.
Garth, are you going to give him your recipe you did when you won this big race of 49?
No. He's a fussy eater.
Dees, you're not a fussy eater.
No, I'm not. But I'm actually a vegetarian these days, Paul. Started in January. It's going well.
Fantastic. It'll work soon.
Okay. This horse, you know, he's a progressive 3-year-old. He showed his hand in Cape Town that he's a horse that could follow if he comes down to KZN for our champion season. Of course, when he won the guineas, he was just given a nice, patient ride by Bernard and asked to run. That was it. The way he skated clear of the opposition was, you know, he put his hand up as I'm a horse that could possibly go Guineas, Daily News, and Vodacom Durban July, you know, a route that many horses from Cape Town have done before. But the Daily News, he didn't enjoy a confident rider. You know, he's a horse that comes from off them. he likes to go and fetch horses instead of hitting the front too early. And both Garth and Kevin mentioned it, don't read too much into the last. It wasn't a bad run, but it's not a run that you can judge him on. He's going to appreciate the extra distance. 2200 is going to suit him ideally. He's got a master in the irons, Anton Marcus. Nice to have him back as well from his wrist injury. He seems to be in fine mood this morning as well. So he's a horse that off the 3-year-olds, he's one of the leading contenders, Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. Kevin, the 5-year-old Star Express, she's a chestnut mare. Kev, by Silvano. Silvano's got an incredible record in this race.
Yeah, Lef, I think, yeah, he has got an incredible record. Out of the Justin Snaith horses, I think this is one of his weaker ones. I don't think she's good enough to win the July. I think he's got a stronger hand. His other horses are going to put in front. So I'm going to pass Star Express by.
Garth?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good gallop. Strong filly, top filly. I think she might have stamina doubts. I don't know if she'll go further than 18.
Dees?
She needs a lot to go away. She's always cleverly ridden to get the job done, as she showed in a penultimate start. I thought Bernard Vader was masterful that day, the way he went to the front. And African Night Sky, yeah, many were singing hard luck stories when he got beat that day, but she was superbly ridden by Bernard. The last start, the secret is out. She's a good horse over a sprint and 1400 meters. And again, she was running on nicely. I don't think she's good enough to win the Vodacom Durban July, but amongst her own sex, she's quite a decent filly.
True. Right, let's move on to a Group 1 winner, Liège. By Dynasty, credentials are good, top yard, very successful owner, great stallion. Everything looks right from a main stud. Has it done enough for you, Kev?
Yeah, interesting, Lef. Has it done enough? The name speaks for itself. He's been tainted a good horse. Sean Terry, what can I say about Sean? He knows how to win the July. He's the kind of horse, he's a big price. He could be a horse you have to add into the back end of your quartet. It's drawn badly as well, Left. A lot of these horses, they fit. They're going to be chasing them around. They're going to put them in the right position. But is he good enough? Next Saturday will tell.
Garth?
Yeah, top horse, Group 1 winner. I just feel Gravel might just not suit him. A galloping track, long running. This is a short running, coming from a bad draw. There's going to be a lot of traffic problems early on. Yeah, he's obviously got the ability, but I think the track might just not suit him.
All right, and Dees?
Caught me napping when he won the Summer Cup, but it was a superb win from the horse. The one thing that you try and look for in black and white and just watching a horse's preparation, and it's not the ideal prep coming into this race. He's a classy horse on his day. If he brings his A game as he did in the Summer Cup, he could be a serious contender, even though he's poorly drawn. But he doesn't have the prep, so I'm going to leave him out.
Okay, there we go. Now we move on to Elusive Silver, another Silvano, a beautiful horse. Last year, just before this time, before we finalised the fields, he was ruling favourite. He had done so well, and Kev, he won a very good race. He quickened up to win the 1900 in fine style.
Yeah, everybody's forgot about this horse. He was the ruling favourite. He went wrong. He's had a lot of time off. He's come back. He's a serious horse. He looked well. He galloped well. I think Justin Snaith can be happy he's got this horse in the race. If he stands up, which there's no reason why he shouldn't, he's the kind of horse he could be in a shake-up.
Garth?
Yeah, I really fancied him last year as one of my picks last year, and I think he back again this year. I don't really know if he's the strongest of the Snaith 5, but he looks well, and I like the gallop.
Dees?
Credit to the stable for bringing this horse back well as they did. We know about his issues and the injuries he's had. He's an absolute soldier, this horse, an iron horse. To come back and win the Greyville 1900 or the Breddingwell 1900 the way that he did. A fine victory. Of course, your horse was in that race, Paul. You were doing some very good fractions over the final 200 meters, gaining in on this horse. So, if the guys like Elusive Silver, I don't see why your horse could not finish in front of him.
All right, let's move on to top 4. Now we come down to the favourite, African Night Sky. Got a lot of people excited. He's shortened dramatically in the betting from his last 2 runs. Kevin, he's very good.
Yeah, Laf, I got a bit of 10-1 this horse early on. I liked him all the way along. And then when he ran second in that his first run here, very unlucky. I said he'll be he'll be a pointer the next time, which he did. He won a very good race. I think he deserves to be favourite. I think he's had a great preparation, and I think whoever beats this horse can win the Vodacom Durban July. He is a big, big, big runner.
Yeah, I think obviously his last win was very good. Top horse, great finishing speed. He tends to find traffic problems, and the July with the gravel cut in half, it's not as wide as it used to be. He comes from off the pace, and there's no quarter given in the July. His biggest concern is he going to get a clear run, but he will be finishing stronger than anything in the race, and he looked very well.
What do you think, Dees?
A lot's been debated and argued in the press and wherever you follow horse racing about this horse's merit rating and him being the best weighted horses in the field. No doubt he's had an ideal prep. He looks like a fantastic horse. The way he won that cup trial, just left towards the back of the field, and I'm sure the guys will be watching that replay during the course of the week. It was a superb turn of foot, the way he got the job done. I agree with Garth as well. Garth has touched on a salient point. It's 18 horses. We've had 2 objections already since they've narrowed the track. And this horse will need a lot to go of his way if he's ridden the way he was ridden in the cup trial. I don't think that'll be the plan this time round. I fancy they're going to try and have him a bit more handily position, because if they turn into the straight and his last position against this quality of field, I can't see him winning it. I'm only a recent resident to Durban, Paul, but I've been told that when the sardines come, the favourite usually wins the race. So the sardines have been in and around the South Coast, and this is the overwhelming favourite in the race now, Paul. So, if the guys that like backing the top one in the July, well, you got your answer. The sardines have arrived, but he has to be included, Paul. I cannot discount his chances. He's got Grant van Niekerk, who's got a wonderful opportunity to go to Hong Kong. He'll be hoping to go off on a high. But the one thing that he'll need a lot to go his way if he doesn't get a position from the jump.
All right, we used to have Chuck and Bonesy. Now we've got Dees the Sardine Oracle. So that's very interesting, Dees the Sardine. Kev, what about the tuna, Abashiri?
Abashiri, I think...
Abashezi.
Everybody knows how good this horse is. Mark's, he started from scratch with this horse. He should never have run last year with the weight he had. Drawn well, striker straight him. He could be the horse that will be bringing him home. Might even be in front. I wouldn't leave this horse out left. He's got the ability, and I think Mark's got him spot on for this year's Vodacom Durban July. So definitely a horse with a chance for me.
Garth?
Yeah, I agree. Last year he should never have been in the race. He was under pressure, obviously, from Furin. He's a more mature. He's come back well. His lead-up runs have been good. It was a 1,400-metre last time. He ended up 5th. I think he'll probably be spot on. A better horse, a stronger horse this year. And with Pierre on, top rider, top judge of pace, I reckon he'd be up there with the pace all the way. He's got no problem with stamina. And if they allow him to dictate, they're going to have to battle to get past him.
Dees?
Yeah, super racehorse, Paul. We know what he did as a 3-year-old. Gave us so much joy as race followers. Yeah, this could be easier. He's carrying 58.5 on his back. He seems to have had a nice prep. I was, fortunate enough to be sitting with Mike Azzi when the final field was announced, and he's really excited about this horse, the way his prep has come, the way he's going about his business as a 5-year-old. And he's engaged the services very, very early of Pierre Stradom. And Pierre's masterful when it comes to these big races. Nice to have him back from injury as well. And he had a good feel for the horse last time out behind world pace. Obviously at distance, it's patently too short for this horse. Yeah, this horse will come here with his A game. Also, doesn't form part of my top 4, Paul, but I keep mentioning the quartet. He's a horse that you cannot discount.
Gold Standard's the second trip here in the race, and this is a horse that has ability, looks to be coming back to his best. He's locked horns up with Legal Eagle, the champion miler over the trip. Is his form strong enough for him to win it, in your opinion, Kev?
He's only a 3-time winner left. He seems to just get found wanting every time by these good horses. I think with 59.5, for me, I think he's going to be found wanting again.
Garth?
Yeah, I look at him. He never goes down to the start that well. He looks like he's got quite a high knee action. He probably wants a good cut in the ground. I just feel that he's just not going to be up to it.
And Dees, what do you think?
A big reputation, you know, a serious 3-year-old. A horse that earlier on in his career, you know, they were touting him as a Met winner and maybe even a Vodacom Durban July winner. A horse that things didn't go well for him with regards to his injuries and his well-being, but he seems to be in a good place. He looked well this morning. Craig Zaki, who rides him, he was very happy with his gallop. 59.5 coming into the race, so not the most ideal prep. So if he wins, good luck to the guys, but I'm not fast part of my top 4, Paul.
All right, let's move on to the last one. Coral Fever, trained by Robbie Sage, a trainer I respect very highly. For Colin Bird, they're hoping to pull it off. The last win was a very gutsy win when it beat Abashiri, and they've brought it down from that race fresh. He's a good horse, Kev.
He's a good horse, Lef. He deserves the top weight. Robbie Sage, drawn well for Muzieni, knows the horse. Great trainer, Robbie Sage. He knows what he's doing. Got to have a chance for the guys who back the top weights. He's got to have a squeak, but he's not going to form part of my top 4.
Garth?
Yeah, I was travelling down here for the first time. I don't really know if I go on the form with Abashiri. I think Abashiri probably having been here before, and I'd go with Abashiri out of the 2. But obviously a good trainer and a nice horse, and he deserves his place.
Dees?
Yeah, many were doubting the top weight last year, Manaresco, and this is a similar type of way he races. He gives me the same type of feel. Left alone, has a serious turn of foot, and yeah, there's no pressure on this horse. He's already done what they've asked of him of the season, and Robbie Sage has done a wonderful job for the owners. And yeah, whatever the result here, I think he'll run an honest race. With 60 on his back, if things work out for him, I can see this type of horse running into the top 6.
All right, now comes the key time for the 3 of you to give us. I'm going to let you go top 6. You all seem to be talking top 6. Don't forget there's 6 places on the day. Kev, let's get your top 6. Do you want to do them in order or no particular order?
I'm going to go in order. I've already written them down. My first choice is going to be the favourite, number 4, African Night Sky, from Matador Man, number 10. Fiorello, my third choice. That's number 9. Your Horse Left, number 17, Dark Moon Rising, and I'm going to throw Abashiri in for 5th. So 4, 10, 9, 17, 3 are my numbers.
Thanks, Kevin. Garth?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Do It Again, African Night Sky, and number 12, White River, Abashiri, number 3, and number 10, which is Matador Man. And if 19 gets in, that'll throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah. All right, Dees, yours, please.
Yeah, my association with Jeff, I'm hoping that it pays off. I'm going to go 15, Made to Conquer, to beat number 4, African Night Sky. 3rd to number 9, Majestic Mambo. 4th to number 12, White River. 5th to number 8, Do It Again. And then I'm going to throw in the filly, number 11, Fiorella. So 15, 4, 9, 12, 8, and 11.
Thanks very much to our panel, and there, that concludes our panel discussion from the gallops today. Interesting to get the perspectives, but the key horse does seem to be number 4, the favourite. Thanks very much for joining us.
The first Saturday in July. 2 precious minutes. 4.25 million rand. Saturday, the 7th of July. Whose time is it? The Vodacom Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing event.